Today we're going to cover Dr. Sleep. And here we go. I'm out of coffee. And here I go.
That's not coffee.
Whiskey.
Half frozen Dr. Pepper.
That's fine. So anyways, we didn't see the movie at the theater since we're old. And we had to get it on DVD. Just watched it last night and I really liked it.
I was surprised that it was an actual book from Stephen King, that it was a sequel to The Shining. I thought it was somebody who saw The Shining and was like, you know, I'd really like to know what happened to Danny, 40 years later since he had this ability. And then I looked up online that it was an actual book by Stephen King.
This movie was done by someone who was definitely a fan of the original movie, for sure. I didn't know Stephen King had anything to do with it, or that it was a book, and that was fine. Oh yeah, spoilers too. So be warned. Ian McGregor is top notch, as always.
He plays Danny in the film, who's the main character, who was the kid in The Shining, and it basically takes place 30 years in the future of his future, where he's been hiding his shining ability away from the world because of what happened to his father and what happened at the Overlook to his father. And well, how many spoilers do you want?
Oh, I got a big spoiler right here. Ian McGregor.
Yeah.
Ian McGregor does not have a lightsaber in the whole movie. That sucked. I thought, but anyways. I don't know. Well, you know what? First off, here, when this did come out, and the few of my friends who go and watch movies at the theater, and they all said, oh, Dr. Sleep, it's a sequel, sort of, to The Shining. And I said, oh, sweet. Well, should we watch The Shining and then go watch the movie? And they said, nah, you don't need to do that. You can just watch it. It's a standalone movie. And it is.
I don't think it is.
Well, I think it's a standalone. But I definitely would have rather had The Shining fresh and then watched it. So if you haven't seen it yet, I would watch The Shining and then watch Dr. Sleep, which was a stupid title. I don't know what else. I would have called it Shining 2.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because there really wasn't anything that would stand out to be a title.
Shine On. Shining 2. The legend continues.
The Shining. Overlook Revenge.
The Revenge of the Overlook. So, I guess one of the spoilers, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was in the trailers, but they actually go back to the Overlook, which was freaking amazing. And the movie was so good, I kind of forgot about the Overlook Hotel. And when it came out of left field at the end of the movie, I was blown away and really surprised, and they nailed it. The whole movie, they nailed it on the cinematography.
For sure.
The camera was always where you would expect it to be. Low shots, high shots, big weird window behind that guy.
Well, see, that's why I don't think it's a standalone film, because if you're familiar with the original Shining with Jack Nicholson, not the remake that came out for Sci-Fi.
That doesn't count.
There's so much cinematography and the sets and the music and the whole mood that they brought from the original Shining into this movie, that if you watch this as just its own movie, you wouldn't get the callbacks, you wouldn't get the Easter eggs, you wouldn't get what's going on. Like, if you watch this without watching The Shining, you wouldn't know how deeply sinister and evil the Overlook Hotel was. But having watched both movies, you're like, you're going back to the Overlook? Are you crazy? You barely escaped and your dad went crazy and tried to kill you and your mom. So watching it, not having seen the first one, I don't think you would understand a lot of the throwback Easter eggs that were in Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's definitely, you should definitely see The Shining first.
So you're saying it's not a standalone movie?
But no, I think if you couldn't stand watching a movie from, what was it, 1980?
I think it was 1978.
Yeah. I think it was 1980.
Okay.
But you know, I know some people they can't stand older movies or whatever, but you'd still enjoy it. You wouldn't know everything that was going on with it. I mean, it's not like Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah.
You couldn't just watch that by itself. You could watch just Star Trek 2 by itself and skip the first one. That would be fine.
The first two of Star Trek?
No, the first one.
Motion picture?
Yeah, you could just skip that and start with Star Trek
The
2.
3 hours of nothing?
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty good. It was made about the same time, too. Hey, did you know The Shining and Popeye were like 6 months apart from release?
And that's relevant how?
Because Shelley Duvall was in both.
And that is who?
And that's the wife of Jack Nicholson in The Shining. And Olive Oyl in Popeye. So that's another one you want to do. You want to watch The Shining back to back with Popeye. With,
No. Just no.
Robin Williams. And then let us know in the comments which one you liked better, The Shining or Popeye. Oh, and the remake, not the remake, but this Doctor Sleep, the actress they got to play Shelley Duvall's character, the wife of Jack Nicholson in the first movie, nailed it, man. She had the scream down, the look down. I mean, it was like looking at Shelley's daughter.
Copy, yeah, for sure.
And the kid, too. The kid was great.
Yeah, because they did some early shots of Danny, like kind of a recap of what happened after they left the Overlook.
Actually, yeah, and it's almost like a week later, too.
Yeah.
So it's like what immediately happened after The Shining. Well, yeah, so, yeah, for that point, you would be kind of lost a little bit, I guess, if you didn't see The Shining.
Yeah, because she's all freaked out, and he's freaked out, and there's a dead, naked woman hiding in his bathtub that terrorized him at the Overlook, and you might be wondering, you know, is this kind of the Sixth Sense where he sees dead people, and you wouldn't know why she was following him and hiding in his bathtub.
I thought they might have overused the naked old lady. She was in the movie quite a bit, like way more than in The Shining. Like in The Shining, she was super gross, and she was only in it for like 30 seconds, which was still too long. And in this one, I mean, man, she's in
like 4
the whole
or
movie.
5 scenes.
Yeah.
And she's like full on gross, Walking Dead, naked, gross.
And the part in The Shining where she first makes her appearance, she's a really attractive lady getting out of the bathtub. And that was the thing that really was so gross, because Nicholson didn't know what she actually looked like.
Or was.
Or what she was, or anything. And then when the camera backs up and she's all half decayed and super gross, you're going, oh man.
But she was like half rotten in The Shining. She wasn't like full on been in a tub of water for 6 months. Gross. She was nasty in this one.
Super, super gross.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was really necessary that you showed everything on her, like full frontal naked, because that's nasty. That was nasty. I like the character of Rose Hat. But
Yeah. Rose the Hat?
Rose the Hat.
Rose
yeah.
the Hat.
They didn't really there was a scene in the supermarket where she lost her hat, and this girl was gonna go pick it up, and she flipped out on her, and it seemed to me that like part of her power came from her hat, like her psychic power, and that if anybody but her touched the hat, she would like lose it a little bit, and they didn't really connect that her power was in the hat, because at the end, super spoilers, when she succumbs to the Overlook, they have a pan out shot and they show the hat sitting on the steps. The hat just sits there, and you're wondering if some of the power that she still had is in the hat somewhere that they just kind of left on the steps, and they didn't like burn the hat or destroy the hat or bury it or anything, and it was kind of like maybe leaving it open for something. And that's what I got at the end of the movie, is that they left it open to maybe be an actual show, like the girl in the movie who has The Shining, like Danny did when she was a teenager, sort of left it where she might go and look for other people that have The Shining or have her abilities to better combat the forces of darkness that came after her and Danny. But the hat was really kind of significant, but they kind of didn't say why. And I'm wondering, because I didn't know this was an actual book, because, let's see, Stephen King's books don't really have a good reputation of being made into very good movies. They,
Unless you cut a bunch of stuff out of it.
yeah, there's that, but people have said, Stephen King books are like 25% book and 75% fill in the blanks for being made into a movie. And that's the problem with Stephen King books, is they're so intense and so drawn out. That's why books are good. That's why suspenseful books are good. And when you adapt them for movies, you lose a lot of that suspense because you're trying to fit in this, 500-600 page book into a 2-hour movie. And I think that if I were to read the book, which I really actually do now want to read the book because I do like Stephen King.
The first book or
both of them, both The Shining and the Doctor Sleep.
I've had 2 different people tell me The Shining is the scariest book they've ever read. And that it was one of them, Georgie, I think, was saying that it was the only book he ever read where he had to stop a few times while reading it to look over his shoulder because he thought he heard something.
That comes with all Stephen King books.
Oh, okay. I never learned to read, so...
Yeah, so I think if I read Doctor Sleep, that it would elaborate more on what was going on with the hat, because there's definitely when you're seeing the shots of her in the hat, there's kind of this ominous what's up with the hat, and they didn't really address that in the movie. And it's
Hey, and one more thing on the end of the movie when the Overlook gets destroyed.
so then the hat did burn.
Was it inside the Overlook?
She died on the steps and it flew off of her head.
Well then, yeah, it might have survived. But this is the feeling I got from the end of the movie. I don't know why. There was nothing that pointed to it at all. But it felt to me like Christine. Remember the end of Christine? The car's in a cube, and then it starts popping back a little bit, and then the movie ends. And you don't see the Overlook doing that, but I had that feel. I was looking for it, or looking for it regenerating or something.
It kind of had the same noise. When it had the pan out of the little girl in front of the Overlook as it's burning, it kind of had this monster sort of roar, kind of better than fire, kind of like a roar.
Yeah.
And it was, now that you said that with the whole Christine thing, that it might have, not been willing to go. Like what was in the Overlook that was tied to the Overlook was not willing to go down with burning of the Overlook.
Because if that hat had some kind of power or the ability to suck in a soul or whatever, maybe the Overlook ghost went into the hat. And if it stayed there and everyone left, maybe it rebuilds itself for the next movie or whatever.
Could be.
But again, we don't know much because, like you said, didn't read a book.
Now I want to order it. Since I have nothing else to do, since we're all staying home watching movies.
Yeah, like The Shining, over and over again. The Shining's a really great movie for this time that we live in now.
Cabin fever.
Maybe don't stock up.
Here's Kitty.
Don't stock up on alcohol. I'm just saying.
They didn't have any alcohol at the Overlook.
Maybe stock up on alcohol.
They made it.
That was the problem with Jack Torrance's character, who was played by Jack Nicholson, if you didn't know, in the original Shining. And
Yeah.
alcoholism plays a really great deal in this
Yeah.
movie too. And I absolutely love Ewan McGregor's
Ewan McGregor.
Aaron McGregor's performance with it, because you can see he is really struggling, and he was really an alcoholic, you know, like his dad, and he gave it up, and he is tempted about 20 times in the movie for a drink, and turns it down every time, which was really cool.
Well, it just goes to show what kind of an actor he is.
Oh, yeah.
When he's first.
But again, he doesn't have the lightsaber.
When he's like first in the movie, he's like this drooling drug addict, face bashing drunk, and then he gets on a bus and ends up in the middle of nowhere and realizes that he has sort of in essence become his father.
Yeah.
And he realizes that he doesn't want to go down that road, that his mom barely escaped with her life, and he did too, from Jack going crazy and being drunk.
And remember, Jack Torrance's original reason for giving up alcohol had something to do with him. Remember,
Yes.
he pulled his arm too hard, or
Yes.
jerked him too hard or something.
Yeah, he was drunk and he basically was abusing Danny, and the mom, and I can't remember her name in the movie of The Shining, basically said, you either get sober or you can pack your stuff and get out. And he got sober, and he was stuck writing a book. He had writer's block, which happens to a lot of writers. And he took the job at the Overlook because he thought, no outside distractions, seclusion in this, big, beautiful hotel for the winter would be great for him writing a book. But he didn't realize that the Overlook was horribly haunted and would play in his fears and make him lose his mind, basically. And he never wrote the book. He just,
All work and no play.
That's true. So it was nice, the speech that Danny in the movie gives to his father, that when he was drunk, he felt closer to his father than he ever did, because
Yeah.
he could understand his father better, which was kind of twisted in a mental health sort of way, because being drunk shouldn't make you think that you're your father or feel closer to your father, but
But he said that was all he knew of him,
yeah.
and it gave him that sense of kind of getting to know him or something.
And it was nice to see his transformation from being a hobo drunk on a bus to getting his life back together and becoming a part of the community that he found, because he just, he got on a bus and just got off in this, it's a fictitious town called Fraser, New Hampshire, and I actually looked it up and I thought maybe it was an actual town, but according to the internet, it's just made up for the show, which is funny because Stephen King usually always has his books based in Maine, because that's where he's from and that's where he lives. So it was kind of a refresher that it was in New Hampshire. But for any of those wondering, I'm a big Walking Dead fan. So when I was watching it, all the outdoor scenes and the houses in the movie, I was thinking to myself, I think they filmed this in Georgia. And we watched it to the very end, and guess where they filmed it? In Georgia.
Hey, we also watched it to the very end to see a little extra clip of something, and there's nothing at the end. So, just another spoiler that might help you out if you haven't seen it. You don't need to watch all the credits. I was also looking for any Volkswagen Beetles.
None.
Couldn't find any.
It was a 1970 Granada at the very beginning.
Yeah, that was cool.
One of the things that they kind of didn't go into very big detail is the group of people that Rose the Hat was the leader of. I read some comments online saying, it was a stupid sort of way of making modern vampires, because they eat people that have the shining. They basically hunt them down and
They're shining vampires,
take their
but not
essence.
like Twilight.
And Twilight. Yeah, these vampires can go out. But they, as typical Stephen King, he doesn't really explain what something is. He just does it. Like...
Lets you connect the dots.
Yeah, like at the end of, the original it's a giant spider that lives in the sewers, and you're like thinking, wow, this movie was good for 80%. And then there's a giant spider and a weird, freaky psycho clown for whatever reason. They didn't ever say, we're aliens or we're magical beings from outer space, or they just have always been here. They've just always been amongst people, eating people with the shining, because that's what they feed on, and it wasn't really explained.
And she said that old guy that was one of those Twilight vampires.
He's not a Twilight.
I mean,
he's a shining vampire.
Shining vampires. He said, or she said that he had seen empires come and go, and cities come and go, and countries and everything. So he had been around a very long time.
I think she said he saw the fall of the Roman Empire. And you're thinking, that's been...
at least 200 years.
So it wasn't really said in the movie that what they were or where they were from, or they were just...
some more background on them would be cool. Maybe that's in the book.
That's why I want to read the book.
Well, maybe you could do a book review.
Yay.
Because
I
never learned
how
to read.
That's so sad.
Yeah, well.
Let's see. We did find out that people with the shining have different uses for it.
Yeah, they're like mutants.
Yeah.
From
X-Men.
X-Men.
That, like Danny can see when people are gonna die, and so he kind of helps people on their way. And the girl in the movie who he eventually helps, her ability was kind of... What would you say her ability was? Because it was...
The girl he was helping?
Yeah.
She was like a super mutant. She had a ton of abilities.
Yeah, because she could, like, twist time and space, so she could turn rooms, and she could make you think she was somewhere where she wasn't.
She could backdoor into your memory while you were trying to get into hers.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, while she's going through the file cabinet. I thought she was going to say that she found out what these people were.
What was that other girl was a pusher?
Then
the blonde.
The blonde was a pusher, and she could put suggestive memories or suggestive thoughts in your head.
Oh, don't ruin that part.
I won't.
Yeah.
But
that was good.
She that is straight out of X-Men. Who was a pusher?
Xavier.
Well, no, he was a pusher, but there was one of Magneto's mutants was a pusher.
Yeah.
I can't remember who that was. But
Oh, Mystique. No.
no. One of the in number 2, one of his little clan was a pusher, or she could like sense abilities or something. And each of Rose the Hat's clan, they all had different abilities. Like she could search out and find someone with the shining, but then the crow, he could basically track you from where she said she thought she saw one.
And he could see through that. He could see through her ability to cloak. Well, not cloak, but she had that other ability to make you think that she was there, but she wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And he saw right through that and went to where she actually was.
I absolutely loved when Rose the Hat was. It was kind of oh, how would you say? It was sort of an out of body experience
Yeah.
where she was navigating through space, and she's basically she's vertical, which was odd, and the world was like moving in front of her, and she was above the clouds, and you could see like the cities that she was mentally gliding over looking for this little girl. And that was really cool because usually, you know, you would shoot that sort of her looking like Superman flying through the clouds looking for the little girl, but she was stationary and the world was moving under her, and she was trying to home in on this little girl to find her because the little girl actually drew the attention of Rose the Hat by looking in on what happened to the little boy, which they didn't really say why she picked up on the little boy, because she didn't really know anybody that had
Baseball
the shining.
kid?
Yeah, the baseball kid. She didn't really say how it is that she felt him. Like, she didn't even know that there were other people with the shining, and then
I think they might have explained that with when somebody uses their powers, they can detect it, and they can kind of know in the general area where you're at.
But she felt him because the crow said that the girl felt the boy die thousands of miles away, so she was super powerful. And I'm wondering if the little boy, not necessarily knowing he had the shining, if he like screamed through the shining, screamed through his ability, and she heard him.
Yeah.
And she was like, "He's dying."
Yeah,
he's
because
being
that was
killed."
that was her main power. That's why she was sitting in the RV. She was up there tracking other people who had the shining, and that's why they got him at the baseball field, because one of the parents said, "Oh, this kid's really good. He never misses a pitch. He hits it every time because he can like read the mind of the
Pitcher. He knows
pitcher."
what's gonna throw out.
So I'm guessing that every baseball game they got closer to locating him until finally the tracker guy was sitting there in the audience waiting for him to get done.
And that's probably how he tracked down
And
the pusher.
And they showed where they were going too, with the overhead shot of the RVs, backtracking how they got there. It looked like they made a few pit stops here and there until they got to where they got to.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool when the little girl was tracking them, or trying to track them, because she kind of homed in on them, and she was sitting in the RV with them, and they didn't know that she was there, and she was reading road signs and stuff. That's something the government has studied, which is remote observation.
Men who stare at goats.
Men who stare at goats. That was a
Remote viewing.
remote viewing. That was a weird movie.
And Art Bell had quite a few great episodes on that.
Finding people standing on a street corner in a city that you've never seen.
I had wished that Jack Nicholson was in the movie, but he's not.
And yeah, that was kind of annoying because the guy they got to play
Sort of him.
1980s Shining Jack really didn't sound very much like him, and he really didn't look like him. It was like a C-level impersonator.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there are so many people that do celebrity impressions that look like
Especially him.
a celebrity and sound like him, that I'm like, you couldn't have, found someone that was way better, that looked like a passable Jack Nicholson and that sounded like him. So that was a little annoying. It was kind of like, oh, hey, you sort of look like Jack Nicholson, and you kind of maybe, if you really tried really hard, sound like him. And oh, I said that completely wrong. You sort of look like Jack Nicholson, and if you listen real hard, you sound like him. But it was kind of like they cheaped out on that, and they didn't really want you to think it was him. So that was kind of
Yeah, I got
weird.
that feeling too. And even the character in the thing said that he wasn't. He was, that's not who I am, or you've mistaken me for someone else.
Well, that was interesting too, because I said this last night, that in The Shining, Jack is sitting at the bar and he's getting served by the bartender, and he's having a conversation with the bartender, and he finds out that the previous watchers of the Overlook, the dad had gone crazy and killed the family. And then when Danny is in the Overlook and he's being served by the bartender, it's his dad who died in the Overlook trying to kill his family. And I'm wondering if the bartender from The Shining with Jack Nicholson was the guy that went crazy and killed his family. If it was kind of like, this is your punishment for being the last person here, if you're the only one that can interact with people that are actually here. So that would be an interesting sort of throwback that they didn't really hint at, that Jack was now the bartender because the previous guy that had killed his family got demoted and he got promoted to bartender so he could interact with the guests. Or not the guests. So again, you need to see The Shining, because you wouldn't pick up on that.
And that Ewan McGregor, in some parts of this movie, he looks identical to Jack Nicholson.
I don't think he. Well, yeah.
There's
the
some
bar-
parts. There's this one part where
The bar scene.
he scrunches up his forehead, and he is just a dead ringer for Jack.
Yeah. And see, you wouldn't get that if you hadn't watched
That's
the
true.
Yeah. Whoever built the sets, because the Overlook isn't. It's a real hotel. The shots for The Shining are of a real hotel in Oregon, not Colorado, like some people think. And of course, the sets for the actual interior of the Overlook are sets. Whoever built the sets for the Overlook in the Dr. Sleep got them perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even like in The Shining, one of the weird parts of it is the long camera follows, where Danny's on the tricycle and he's riding through the hotel, and it's just one continuous shot for like 3 or 4 minutes, which is a hard shot to do. And he's going through all these different floors and all these different rooms that are all connected. And the same long follow-through shots are in Dr. Sleep. And you're like, oh, there's the gold room, and there's the room that he was with his family, and there's the hallways he rode his tricycle through. And there was a lot of callbacks in that. There was a lot of great cinematography. Whoever wrote, or I guess screenplayed this from the book, I would say was very much a fan of The Shining, because he got a lot of similar cinematography and got a lot of the shots that were very much
The eggs are exploding.
the original.
Oh, crap. Thank you, James. So we're boiling Easter eggs, and I kind of forgot Lady Omega was boiling Easter eggs, and I said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did a quick, or I don't know how long this will be, maybe a long review of Dr. Sleep, because we just saw it last night. And she goes, yeah, that'll be fun. And anyway, she had just started the eggs, and that was about a half hour ago, so I think they're probably done. And now we might have to run to the store, and hopefully they got more eggs. Now, see, that's how much we like The Shining. See, we forgot all about the eggs for Easter tomorrow.
And they boiled down and now they're exploded all over the kitchen.
Now, I don't know when you guys will be watching this movie, but on tomorrow we're going to be posting a radio show that we made probably a year ago called The Shining Starship, and it is a mashup between Star Trek The Next Generation and The Shining. It was way before we ever heard about this movie coming out or being made or a book or anything, and I just thought it was kind of funny. I don't know why it popped in my head, but Beverly and Beverly Crusher's husband's name was Jack, is where it kind of sparked. And then for some reason I thought, you know, The Shining, and then I thought, wouldn't that be funny if Jack Nicholson was Wesley's dad and how disappointed he was in him and stuff. And then that kind of developed into well, what if he was actually on a starship named the Overlook, and they lost him a long time ago. They didn't know where he went or anything. And anyways, so if you want to, you check that out. I'll put that in a link, or I'll put it at the end of the video. And we had a lot of fun making it.
Yeah.
Me and my brother and Lady Omega and everything else. It was fun. Did we tell them why we were looking for the Volkswagen Beetle?
Well, that would be an Easter egg. I was looking for a lot of Easter eggs. Like you said at the beginning of the movie, that you were kind of disappointed that they weren't at the Overlook. That it kind of didn't feel like a Shining movie because there wasn't snow everywhere and the whole isolated, you know, quarantine feel of the movie wasn't really there. But again, that's an Easter egg that you would only get from having watched The Shining first.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when I did notice, and I don't know if I'm quite correct on it, that the gas station that Ewan McGregor stops at in Colorado, I believe, is either a really good reproduction of the gas station that his dad was at when he was filling up the cars before they headed to the Overlook. Which would be interesting to, you know, in a real life scenario, to have gone to a gas station that your dad went to when he was your age to fill up the car. That would kind of be kind of trippy, because nowadays nothing really lasts very long. You know, everything gets remade, rebuilt, redone. So to have that kind of, oh, you know, my dad was here gassing up his car 20 years ago, and now I'm here at the same station that looks identical to the original station. I'm, you know, gassing up my car.
That was cool.
But I don't, you know, from my memory, I don't know if it was an exact duplicate. It did look like the sign out front and the way that the storefront looked, it looked like the one that they did have in The Shining.
That's why we should have watched The Shining first. But that would have been a whole day. I mean, The Shining's pretty long.
We did just watch it like 6 months ago, though.
Yeah, we did.
It wasn't like 5 or 6 years that we hadn't seen it. Because it's, I would think...
Well, that's because I wanted to watch The Shining and Popeye back to back.
I didn't want to watch Popeye. That's not...
That wasn't a good experiment.
I like Robin Williams, but Popeye is not...
Not in Popeye.
Popeye is not one of my top 10 Robin Williams films. Or any film that I would want to see.
I don't know if it's in the top 50.
I don't know if he made that many movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like Stephen King movies.
So make sure you watch Popeye before you watch Dr. Sleep, and try to connect the similarities between the two.
You said Popeye. Watch Popeye before Doctor Sleep, not The Shining.
I know there's a lot of hidden things in Popeye.
Oh man, stop promoting Popeye. It's a horrible movie.
Come on, Shelley Duvall's in it.
Nobody knows who that is. She made like 3 movies.
And she tried really hard.
In the early 80s. Nobody knows who that is.
Yeah.
Just-
So the Beetle. So you guys know about the Beetle story, right? The Volkswagen Beetle story? No? Good. So, the director of the original Shining, and I don't remember his name because I'm really bad with names, if you've seen any of my videos, he got the script for The Shining and just started hacking it, you know, and tweaking it and making it the gem that it was. And Stephen King did not like that at all. And, you know, he kept saying, what about the giant Christmas tree monsters that are supposed to be in the maze? And then the director's like, no, those are stupid. I cut them out of the movie. And King's like, no, they're really important. They have to be in there. And you cut this other thing out. And this didn't actually happen in the book. And what are you doing to my book? Until finally the director had enough and threw him out of the movie making. And he said, hey, your name's going to be on the movie. You're not going to have anything to do with it. And so that's what it is, you know. And for, you know, whatever reason, they all agreed to it. And so anyways, the director was so mad at King that he put the Volkswagen Beetle, which was Jack Torrance's car, driving to The Shining. You see it quite a bit in the beginning. And later you see another Volkswagen Beetle that's the same color as Stephen King's personal car. That was one of Stephen King's favorite cars. And it was just smashed to nothing on the side of a road. And it was kind of like an honorable mention for King from the director of The Shining. So anyways, that's why I was looking for a Volkswagen.
Yep, there was none. But you don't see very many of those anymore. You don't see any 1970s VWs anymore.
No, they're pretty rare now. And then, so anyways, so then King was still mad. He was so mad. And The Shining did great. And that made him even more mad. And so he thought he could make a better Shining movie. And he tried. And he put his stupid Christmas tree monsters in it and whatever else. And it was horrible.
That was, what, late 90s with the guy who plays the lead in Wings? If you
Yeah, the really
remember?
funny guy in Wings.
If you even remember
The brother.
that show. And
Yeah.
he played Jack, and it was, I think it was a made for sci-fi movie. Which those...
I think it was like made for ABC or something.
I
don't even think it was on cable.
No. Well, maybe. But
It was terrible.
sci-fi movies are kind of hit and miss with actually being good or watchable, and it wasn't anything near the level of suspense that the original had. And it was the CGI hedge maze monsters were just awful. Like, they looked like
Like that other one. Like that other stupid Stephen King one that he made. Remember with the Tommyknockers? Or the... What was the one where those stupid balls of teeth?
I think that was Tommyknockers.
Yeah, they were eating time or something. And they were so stupid.
Yeah, they looked like, I
A
don't know.
CGI garbage fire.
Yeah.
Garbage
Teeth.
can with teeth and... Yeah, man.
And it's always funny to know that they're like not there, and the actors are gonna have to be all scared about these weird poo monsters with teeth, and you're like, oh man.
I could see the actors watching the movie going, we were afraid of those? Really?
Yeah, the hedge maze monsters in the remake were kind of hokey. They were, yeah, they could have done them so much better if they had actually put some money into them, because I thought that was really creepy. That part where he's, the little boy is just sitting playing in the snow, making, snowmen and stuff, and these hedge monsters or hedge animals start coming to life and creeping up on him, and he turns around, they're stopped, and then they creep up on him some more, and And it's just like, oh, you're gonna get eaten by a shrub, kid. Turn around. I'm like, no, that's no. I don't know about the Christmas tree. What was up with that?
I don't know. Yeah, it's stupid.
I don't remember a giant Christmas tree trying to eat him.
Yeah, one of them was like a Christmas tree.
I thought they were all lions.
I don't know. It's been like 2 decades since I saw that remake.
Yeah.
I saw it. I think I saw most of it about 20 years ago.
Yeah, I just remember it wasn't good, and I didn't really like the guy who played the main lead because he's a comedian, and sometimes comedians can't transfer to serious, dramatic roles, and he's kind of one of those guys. I don't even remember the wife in that movie. I can't even picture her face.
Mm-mm.
I don't even know if you could rent that.
It's probably on YouTube.
Probably.
Or Daily Motion. They play anything. Might be backwards.
Upside down.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
I think we got it. And we're going to run out of batteries right now. Hey, you guys have a great day, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.